Is trauma affecting your manifestations? The more I have done work on healing my own mind, the more I have realized just how much trauma affects us. And you might be thinking right now, well, I had a really good childhood and trauma doesn't really apply to me. So I'm going to explain today what small t trauma is and tell you how this very common thing is actually probably holding you back from manifesting the things that you want. Fortunately, there is a way out, so I'm going to let you know how you can heal it as well. But if this sounds like something that you are interested in, then keep watching. What's up, beautiful friend? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to talk about trauma and manifestation, which has become one of my favorite topics to speak about, to write about recently. If you don't know me, my name is Jen. I am a holistic manifestation coach and the creator of Recode Manifestation Academy. My YouTube channel is where I create a brand new training for you each and every week, all designed to help you up-level your mind so you can up-level your life. And if that sounds like something you want to be a part of, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So trauma and manifestation, like those two things might sound completely different at first, and I totally get it. So when I use the word trauma, one of the first responses I get from people is,
I had a really good childhood, so trauma isn't something I've had experience with.
And I totally understand what that means. When you think about trauma, you're usually thinking about something big like sexual abuse, childhood abuse, or something like that. But what I'm trying to teach the world is that there is actually another layer of trauma that most of us have experienced. And this is what I call small t trauma. Just before we get into it, I'm not using the word trauma because I want to take away from those big trauma experiences that you associate with that word, but because I believe most of us have had an experience like this that we've brushed away, we've pretended is way behind us, but it's actually still affecting us, and actually it could be affecting the way you manifest. So what do I mean by small t trauma? Small t trauma, so not big T trauma, small t trauma. Small t trauma to me is like everyday trauma, the kind of trauma we have all experienced in our childhood. And right now you might be thinking,
Well, if we all experience it, is it really that traumatic?
but actually, yes. And especially if you are a sensitive person, especially if you are struggling with some area of your life, like relationships or money, this might be the very thing that you need to look at. And in fact, this is what I go into inside my Recode Manifestation Academy. My process of teaching you how to manifest is all about healing your trauma, which is really just going into your subconscious mind and locating these old patterns and healing on them so that you can get beyond them. So small t trauma, I define it as anything that happened to you as a child where your needs weren't met. So that might sound really innocuous at first, but remember that when you are a child, your entire brain is completely malleable. In fact, you are basically in a hypnotic state up until the age of 7. So I use hypnosis as part of my healing process because hypnosis is such a powerful way to go in and rewire your brain. So now just think about what that really means for you. Basically, the first 7 years of your life were just a trance state, were just a hypnotic state. Even the things that your parents didn't mean or, happened by accident, even though your parents had great intentions and even though your parents might have loved you and you might have had a great childhood, your brain's experience of these moments in time might be very different than what your logic brain is telling you right now. I'm going to give you a few examples. And I just want to say though, at first, most of us have had an experience like this. And most of us, looking back as we grew up and we got older, we started to minimize it. We were like,
well, that wasn't a big deal, or my parents were just stressed out, or I can totally understand why this happened.
And your logic adult brain might be able to see the other side of the equation. But what I'm really trying to say here is that part of you, the child part of you, the subconscious brain part of you, is still holding on to that story and to that lesson of whatever it was that happened to you for this trauma experience. So the thing is, our brain learns through repetition, through emotional charge, and through hypnosis or from being a child. So if something happened to you that you had a big emotional reaction to as a child, that's going to be wired really deeply into your mind. And it is going to be especially wired deeply into your mind if that same experience happened over and over again. So now you still might be wondering, well, what does that have to do with manifestation? So these little experiences, as everyday and mundane as they might seem, might have created the very limiting beliefs that are holding you back from manifesting what you want. So remember that you had an open brain, a brain that was being hypnotized all the time. Remember that you had a big emotional reaction, and keep in mind that you might have had the same experience or learned the same lesson over and over again. So all of these things combined together can create a very stubborn belief in your mind that you might not be consciously aware of right now. Part of your brain is still operating from that point of view, and that can create the manifestation blocks that are holding you back. Okay, so now that I've explained the whole concept here, like what is an example of a small t trauma experience? So one example I like to use is perhaps you were a child who was in dance or a band practice of some sort, and you were practicing for your end of year recital and you were really excited and you really wanted your dad or your mom or your aunt or whoever to show up for this event, and you were practicing and practicing and you were so excited to show off your skills, and then the day comes and that person didn't show up. I mean, it could be all kinds of things that logically make this make sense, right? Like your dad's boss asked him to stay late at work that day, or his car broke down, or your aunt couldn't make it because their babysitter canceled, or whatever the reason was that this happened. Like, I know you can see it now from the other side, and I know you're trying to minimize it, but I want you to go back to that moment in time where this hurt happened, where you felt shame, abandonment, all of those real low-level emotions. Just remember what that was like as a child and how horrible that felt. Don't worry, I'm not making you hang out in this state. I just want you to see what that emotion was. So once you know what that emotion was, I want you to understand that your brain created a protection mechanism from that. It created a lesson, right? So the lesson from this person not showing up to your dance recital or to your band practice, the lesson might be,
I can't count on people to show up for me. I can't count on men to keep their word. I can't count on getting praise and validation from other people, so I'm just never going to ask for it again.
These are the things that our brain does automatically in order to try to protect us from the pain. So I just want you to see the difference here. It's not like your dad was like, I'm not going to show up to band practice so my child feels abandoned and will have this horrible limiting belief for the rest of their life. This is just what your brain does. It is just trying to protect you from feeling this negativity ever again. So it creates a protection mechanism around that, which might be,
I'm not going to ask for help. I'm not going to ask for validation. I'm not going to trust in people.
And those are the limiting beliefs that are the most stubborn in your mind and that are the most likely to be holding you back from the things that you want to manifest. So in that example, that might have nothing to do with a romantic relationship on the surface, but if your key takeaway from that experience in your little child brain was,
I cannot trust men.
Perhaps you are going through your life right now secretly thinking, I can't trust men. So you're not really showing up, you're not really being vulnerable, you're not really putting your full self into a relationship, and as a result, you're not having the relationship that you actually really want. What I teach inside Recode is really about how to unite the conscious and the subconscious, because most of us have two parts of our brains that are not united. There's one part of us that wants to go forward, that wants the relationship, that wants the money and the success and the fame and whatever that is that you want. And there's your subconscious mind, which is doing its best to protect you from feeling shame and abandonment and fear and whatever else has happened to you in the past. If you are not looking at this stuff, if you are not paying attention to your own patterns, they are going to retain a hold over you. But with a little bit of care and attention and a little bit of healing energy, we can get control back. And not only can we heal our brain, but we can start to reprogram it for what we want. You can go dig up some other videos on YouTube. You can do some hypnosis on yourself. There are lots of different ways you can start to take on this process yourself. But I do this exact process inside Recode Manifestation Academy. And if you're wanting to get help with it, come on over and join that. I made sure that it is a very reasonable cost every month, so you can take your training as you need it. You can come and go if you like, but there are the resources there to help rewire your brain, to heal your past, and to get you past those stubborn manifestation blocks that have been holding you back. So I just want to wrap up by saying that small t trauma does not mean you're broken. It does not mean that your parents didn't love you. It does not mean that you are doomed to repeat these patterns forever and ever. I hope that your takeaway from this video today is empowerment, to be like, okay, I can see how this process worked, and I know I have the tools to overcome it. You can heal yourself. You are not broken, and you can have anything you want. As long as you get both parts of your brain working towards the same goal, it'll become so easy to create the life that you want. So that is it for today's training. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you want to learn this step by step, come on over and join me in Recode. If you like this video, please give me a like. And other than that, I'll see you back here next week. Have a beautiful week, my friends.